Welcome to Talk About It Tuesday with Karina Nash. Interesting week. Wow. Like I think about the political scene. We're not talking about that, by the way.
No.
I think about the emotional scene, the clients I've seen this week, all these different things. And it's like, wow, what a roller coaster in the world this week. But the one thing that came kind of clear this week when Ash and I wanted to talk about it was dying. And I mean, I have another podcast where I do cancer is not a death sentence, and it's not. But the truth is, when you have cancer, it kind of gives you pause and kind of goes, okay, what are you doing? And is this it? And is the life that I'm living worth dying over? And I think that's an interesting question. It's a pretty loaded question, actually. Thanks, Spirit. That was a wonderful question to have. Is the life I'm living worth dying over? Thoughts, Ash?
It's interesting because we were saying before we started this, when we hit record, is like most people aren't living a life,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's the thing is like people who are afraid of dying don't have peace with the life they're living. And
Yeah.
so if you don't have a life, like, because that's why I say, like, why are some people so okay with if the Lord takes me or whatever expression you want to have takes me, or it's the end of your life? And I just think, what do I want to accomplish for this life? Like, what's stopping me and what's helping me? And so when you think about living a life worth dying for, it's like I think we're living a life worth living for. Like I'll be honest, it's major and that's again political. The government, in my opinion, from what I can see, is supporting dying, is supporting death. We've become a death culture. In my this last month, I've had multiple people. A friend of mine had three people. Two of them took their own life in the last little while. And it's like, I can't tell you now everywhere. It's everywhere. Everyone is like, we can't take it anymore. The world is too heavy. Things are not worth living. And so people find it not worth living, right? And so again, you're dealing with cancer a second time. You've had a pulmonary embolism. My dad had a heart attack. I swear, you guys are driving me crazy. I love you. I'm so glad that you're here to drive me crazy. But it's like when you keep thinking about like any moment things could happen, right? And you come back to anniversaries of times when we were literally dealing with this shit, and I'll call it shit because that's what it is. And it was like, how do you find peace when everything around you is screaming and on fire or demanding or just a crisis, crisis, crisis? And so that's what I wanted to talk about today was how do we find peace? So how do you find peace, Mom?
Well, first of all, meditation has to be part of that. Like it's always meditation is always part of that because if I don't have there's two things, meditation and exercise, those two things.
Yes.
And if I don't do one or the other or both, my mind, ADHD brain goes into overdrive and it just creates things that aren't even there. It's like it literally sees the shadows on the wall that isn't there. So I have to really be conscious of that. But I also have to really be mindful of what it is that I am feeding my brain. So if I buy into that story, that, when my oncologist told me 2 years ago, almost to the day now, that I
Mhm.
had 2 years to live. And I remember you being in the room and Nikki being in the room and dad being in the room and her coming in and saying, you have 2 years to live. It's like, what? Hold
Yeah.
on, I didn't even know that I had breast cancer. That was the scary part of that for the oncologist in Abbotsford to say that was horrific. But she'd been horrific from the beginning. So
Yeah.
she was, lots of judgment and criticism, but she, to have that diagnosis and then to watch your reactions was interesting for me.
Yeah.
I think um I don't want to see that again. It's funny, I had a dream about that the other day where I've left my body, I'm on my way to the light, and I'm looking down and I'm watching you're all around my bed, and I'm gone. And the reaction that you guys have is heartbreaking. And so I thought about that and I went, okay, so what can I do? I mean, eventually that's going to happen. So that's going to happen. But how do I make sure that that relationship that we all have is worth dying over, and that makes dying and it's, dying is such a sad conversation, but it's a necessary
It
conversation
is.
because we all die. We all get born. And when you think about what the truth of dying is that when we're born, we die and it's from the spirit world and we come into human form. And then when we leave the human form, we die in the human form, going back to the spirit world. And so when you think about it that way, we're just transitioning. We're not really dying. We're just
Right.
not physically able to, give you a hug or, those kinds of things. So if those things are important to you, you got to find out what's important to you and then start doing those things. I think that's kind of the key. I see so many people, they don't even live, really. Like their dying is the same as somebody's living. It's like,
Yeah.
ow, like go do something.
Right. And that's the thing. Like when you look at death, it's not that because I know we've seen the other side. And so the other thing I wanted to bring was how do you know the difference between is that a vision, is that a premonition, or is that an intrusive thought? Is that your subconscious fear, right? To have that, but that's the ego's way to feel like in some way you're trying to prepare yourself for that thing. And it's like there's no matter what, one day you won't be here no
Right.
matter, right? And it's like if you outlive people who pass, that's the thing. When you outlive everyone else's passing. If you outlive other people, right? And so
It's,
it's
it's
like,
interesting. I'm just going to look at something because I think it's been a year today that I had
right?
a pulmonary embolism.
Mm, no, because this day was another thing. You had that had to have been February. It had to be February.
Yeah, January 27th, I was home in Kelowna.
Yeah. It had to have been, was
Mhm.
it
I think
sooner?
it was in January, but
Was it sooner in June? No, because it's
I
interesting
have to
how,
figure out we took the gun course.
yes. So I think it was in February or,
Anyway, I'm going to find out when I actually had that because, yeah, that was bizarre. That was a bizarre
oh,
thing to
that was
go through that. That was
absolutely horrific.
scary for
I'm just
me.
gonna call it out. Listen, Linda, and I say that with full heart because that's her full name. Anyways, but her name, listen, Linda, this lady, she goes and has a fucking, excuse my language, she passes out. She goes, dad finds her, goes, calls the ambulance. They call us. We're freaking out. We don't know what's going on. Dad goes to the hospital. Mom comes back, gets a test, all these things, gets the medicine, and then she comes home. They let her go and then she goes and bakes cookies.
Well, I had a meeting that night, so I had to go.
And then I'm thinking to myself, and then the next weekend she wants to drive down by herself from Kelowna down to the lower mainland to go to take a gun course, like to learn to get her
Just so
pass.
you know, I did that, just so you know.
She did, and I'm telling you what. That's one way to keep yourself
Crazy.
living because she said, well, I had a course to do. And I'm going to tell you what, I'm actually kind of grateful in hindsight. In the beginning, I was so mad, so ticked off. I said, Mom, elevation changes. Mom, sitting in a car driving. Hello, you just had a blood clot, like, or a clot or some sort or whatever in your lungs. Like, hello, this is the last thing you want to do. And I can't even tell you how many prayers we send. But again, she called the guy. The guy said, "Well, if you cancel, we no refund because
Yeah, he was gonna make me lose my money. Like I
yeah,
and I had already paid. Like I would not. I never gave him a good review, and the reason I didn't is because
yeah,
he had the compassion of a gnat. Um,
right, yes,
I just said I just had a pulmonary embolism, and I'm trying to figure out. But I guess he's had quite a few people cancel on him, and so my daughter and I, Nikki, the other one,
yeah,
were taking the class, and she wouldn't have taken it on her own. So anyway, I thought that was just fascinating how he wouldn't let me cancel my course. It's fascinating. So
yeah.
anyway, I said, fine, I'll go take the course then. You're an idiot.
then she
But,
went and did
he
it.
said, "Are you going to give me a good review?" I went, "No."
No,
Why? Well,
no.
because, here I'm telling you a week prior, not that it was necessary and it was fine to know it ended up being okay, but the fact that you had no
So,
compassion over something, people die from pulmonary
yeah,
embolism. And, he didn't have any compassion at all. So I just thought,
no.
wow, that's pretty interesting.
Plays with me. So, anyways, he got his money, and she was fine, and she lived, and
And
I
I
actually
have my
got
gun
to hug
license.
her, and I kept her gun license. But I tell you what, man, it was like, but again, that class kept you going,
Absolutely.
right? Things kept you
Absolutely.
going. So it's like you have to find a reason. And we always said that as long as we have work to do, we'll be on the earth. I always negotiate with God. I got lots to do. Don't you dare, right? Like, don't you dare take her, don't take me, don't take anyone, right? But how do you really find peace knowing we're really not in control? And that is
If
how I
we're
find
not in
peace.
control, like as much as we, that serenity, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to
But
change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
it
That's a
works
true
when
statement.
you work it. See, I went to so many AA meetings myself. Right? Because as a kid, I went to lots of AA meetings. That's another topic for
Yeah,
another
there's nothing
day.
wrong with that. I think
Mhm.
everybody should go to an AA meeting and kind of understand that you don't have control. Like I use it for so many things, not just drinking. I don't drink today, but there's a lot of things that are messed up in my head, and the teachings in AA help with so many things. And so that for that I'm
Yeah.
grateful. So it is about finding out the things that you really want to be. It isn't about what you want to do, because truthfully, you'll find lots of things to do. It isn't about doing, it's about being. What do you want to be?
Yeah.
When you're done, do you want to be the grandmother that is, or grandfather that is actually makes a difference in these children's lives or in your children's lives? Do you want to be the worker, the staff person? What is it that you want to be? It is a being conversation. It's not a doing.
Yep.
We've
That's
lived
what
in a
living
whole
is.
doing
That's what
thing.
living is. Maybe
Yeah.
that's the diff. Oh, I'm just gonna. That's what I heard. Being is living, dying is doing.
Yeah,
You
because
know?
that's a thing to do. You're gonna do it.
Yeah.
You're gonna die.
The
That's what you're
last,
doing.
it's the last thing you do
Yeah, you're not
on
wrong.
this earth is the,
Yeah,
and so, and it's like, and because I like that one thing where are we in a state of growth or are we in a state of decay? And it's like when
yeah,
you're growing, you're evolving, you're out of your comfort zone. It's why I constantly find things to do to do so I could be uncomfortable and like I do things that scare me every day so that I can
yeah.
support myself and push myself. So the one thing I want to contribute to this is what do you want to accomplish for this life? And ask yourself that, and then ask yourself what is stopping you and what is keeping you going. And just notice awareness is half the battle. Becoming aware that maybe you need to change something and doing nothing about it, that's worse than insanity. Just sort of.
Yeah, for sure.
Because at least if you do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result is something that, at least you're doing something. So,
Yeah.
what else do you want to add for today's little topic? I'm glad you're alive so that I can be scared. I'll be honest. I'm glad you're alive so I can be scared to lose you. And don't listen to Ed Sheeran while you do your mascara. I swear I cried a little bit, right? Because like I said, it's this also the fire horse is coming and I can feel it. I don't know if
Yeah, I
anybody
have noticed the one thing I have noticed, and I don't know if anybody else notices it, but I definitely noticed that my energy in January has been really low. And normally I'm quite motivated to get things done, but January just not tired all the time. And I'm going, is that because of whatever? I don't really know. So now I'm starting to come out of it. I feel like I'm coming out of this. So I don't know if fire horse energy is what's going to help that, because fire horse energy is about let's kick up some dust, let's get her done. And I appreciate that energy. That always has helped me. That's been an energy that's definitely supported me for sure.
well, you are a
But
fire horse.
it really is about living and about doing things and living, like doing different things,
Right?
like
Like
finding
to
things to
be
do
list,
and how to
right?
be.
No, it's the to be list, not the to-do list. To be
Yeah, but
list, right?
sometimes you got to do things in order to be.
Yeah.
So, like, I haven't seen some friends of mine. Then we had friends over last week that we haven't seen. Like, we see them, but we don't really see them. So they were here for 3 days, and so we got to spend 3 days with them, and that was lovely. And
Awesome.
so another friend that we're going to go see this weekend, we haven't never stayed at their house they've moved to, so we get to actually spend some time with them. And so I'm looking forward to that too. So it is about how do I get to spend some time with people that actually matter to me? And I think that becomes pretty important.
Huge, right?
Time with people, like I spend time with family, that's always an important thing, but I also have other things other than family. So
Yeah.
friends, I
Yeah.
have friends that don't live in Abbotsford anymore, or some of them do.
Yeah.
And spending time and doing that too. So it's like, okay, so what matters to me? And what do I need to do? How do I need to be in order to make that a great memory? And really getting memories. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Creating memories.
Yeah. What a
I
great
love
thing, right? And meditation and exercise. If you are in a bad mood, okay, immediately go drink some water
that. Yeah.
and or go brush your hair or change your clothes or do something that can immediately like change your environment or the way you feel about yourself. I used to call it my war paint. I would brush my hair, I would do my hair, put my makeup on, and I would say, okay, whatever happens today, at least I look pretty. Like, or at least I feel like, right? Like, or I can at least feel more comfortable in myself than when I don't have that things. And it doesn't have to
Yeah.
be makeup, it doesn't have to be grooming. It could be go have a shower, go have a bath, go for a walk. Whatever you can do to give yourself dopamine and reduce cortisol. That is the main
Yes.
focus. But yeah,
Yeah. Reducing cortisol is always a big thing.
make,
That's a big deal right now.
make
So
a cup of tea or whatever it is, and just find that when you do that, it satisfies a part of your brain and it solves something immediately. You're giving yourself something you need. And the more you do that, the better you'll feel. And then you'll do that for others. So,
yeah, enjoy something. Do something that you enjoy. Like last year with diamond art was the thing. Right now I'm on a treasure hunt. So it's like figuring out the
that's
treasure hunt.
perfect. That's perfect.
So I am a OCD kind of person, and I need to do something because it gives me a feeling of accomplishment. So that's what is finding things that I enjoy. So finding right now, I'm pretty sure it's up north, like north of Terrace, north of another one where the treasure chest is. So it's so much snow up there. I'm not going up there, but if it's still around by the middle of February, I am going to go up there and see if I can find it because that just sounds like a fun thing to do. I'm no longer tied to work.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
when all of a sudden you're not tied to work, you look at things differently too. So I never thought I would be, it's not that I quit work. I still work, I still see clients, but I'm not seeing 30 clients a week anymore. So we're
Yeah.
not doing that.
Yeah.
So it's okay.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
Well, there you have it.
Elon Musk said something about that the other day. He said, in 5 years, there will be no need for you to work. Robotics will have taken over most of it.
Oh boy. So interesting, hey? Interesting. So that should be our next topic. Will be
Yeah,
what
I
are
think talking about AI and robotics and how that could very well be what,
Yeah. I could just dive into that right now where I'm just gonna say like the more convenience we have, the less we do. Like I look at our generation, so your generation, when you were 18, you were out, you had your car, you had your life, you had your stuff, right? My
yeah,
generation, we were like, all right, we're out, we're kind of figuring it out, we're kind of doing this, we're kind of doing that. This generation, my son that's 18, ay, ay, ay.
I know they don't do anything.
He is trying, right? He's working, he's doing it. But here's the difference. I'm like, I don't, and I said to my son, I said, I don't know how to teach you what I just did. Like he has a brain. He's so gifted. He could just think. Me, I had to work so much harder than most of the other kids because I had dyslexia. I had all these learning issues, and I always had to always think things different, or I memorize things a little differently. But anyways, so yeah, I would love to talk about that next week. So if you're interested, stay tuned. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. But is there anything else you wanted to add for today's topic on death and dying?
Just live.
Yeah.
I think if anything, if there's advice to be, talked about, just live. Like
Yeah.
find that sweet spot for you to live your life. Don't piss other people off. And if you do, make it a good fight, I guess. If you're going to do it, make it good. But don't stay in resentment because that doesn't solve anything. It just makes things more difficult. So, and allow yourself to enjoy the day, whatever
Yeah.
it is that you're doing. And it's nice to say when you're semi-retired that you should just allow yourself to enjoy the day because, I don't have the stress that a lot of people do, but allow yourself to enjoy the day as much as you can. I think
Yeah.
that's the key.
Make the struggle fun. And someone who isn't in that position is in a different position. It's about finding purpose for the struggle. And
I often go back to that story where when I had no money and I had three kids and I had a husband who was coming home from work and I had a pork chop and that's all I had. I had rice and vegetables and things, but the only meat I had was one pork chop. And I had to make dinner out of that. I so creative, like being able to be so creative with that. I think we ended up having sweet and sour pork with pineapple, and I had some peppers and some mushrooms, and we added it all together, and rice and a vegetable. But you see, you get very creative. Where today I have two freezer full of food, and I'm like, what do you want for dinner?
right.
Yeah, don't have a clue what to have for dinner. So, sometimes the struggle is a lot more fun than having everything. Seriously, like the struggle shows you who you really are. And I think that's awesome. We don't like the struggle, but sometimes, and I'm gonna knock on wood about this because I don't really want to go back to that struggle, but I would like the creativity that came with it. Sometimes
Yeah,
that would be lovely.
that's true. Yeah, that's very true. Right.
Yeah. Anyway, have yourself a great week and we'll, see you next week. Bye for now.
Okay.
Thanks, Ash.
Hey, anytime.